Ia toi whaatalofa atu le paia ma le mamalu o mwhaia ne whaafonga mai le nei afiafi. Ia o lo ingoa fui a vai lili ala i lima ma o le a tātou toi a whaawau pēr ia se talanoanga ma le awhionga ia Misa Telefoni e tusai fo'i ma le tusi lea o le Tautua, the memoirs of a public servant. Yeah.
Mone atu whaftetere I lau whionga ia e langona whorifanga I tia no ua toi maua lewa no e toi whaise le nei whaapoponga I le tātana noanga le vai so na seima vai atu nei.
Yeah.
Ia e whaftai fo I le atuo I le whaafonga fo I le maru tātou tunu. O tātou wauwhanga fo I lumo nu, ada o tua nu. Ia wauwhanga fo I manuia te loelo na alofa.
So sure. I wanted to just kind of go back a little bit and cover the nearly 20 years that you were a cabinet member in the Samoa Parliament. There's a story that I hear you often tell when you were the Minister of Health and how you visited some people there at the hospital in Mototua. Do you want to share that?
I was very proactive when I was Minister of Health.
Yeah.
I just wished many times that I was a doctor. Because when the queue got too big at the outpatient,
yes.
I used to say to my Director General, who is a doctor, but he's now also an official, and doesn't want to go and... I said, well, why don't you go and put on a stethoscope and help out with the queues? You know, and he'd say to me, well, I'm Director General now. I said, it doesn't matter. I said, if I were a doctor, that's what I'd be doing.
Yes.
And I was always impressed. I had a friend called Dr. Bill Tangi, who the Tongan King made minister when he was still a surgeon in Sydney.
Yes.
And I loved it when Bill Tangi was telling me that if there's an emergency operation, they fish him out of cabinet to go and do the operation.
Okay.
So, but I used to walk around the whole hospital. You know, Apia General is not a very big hospital.
No.
So I'd walk around it at least, maybe every 3 weeks on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I walked up this particular time to the diabetic ward.
Yeah.
And I saw one of my constituents from Whalatai. So I sat down next to him. And, I said hello. And he's a very nice man. And we were talking, and he said to me, I'm a bit upset. I said, why? He said, well, I don't eat any cakes. I don't eat any biscuits. And my sugar levels were just high. They just measured it about 5 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. But he had a cup of tea. Yeah. So I said to him, well, how much sugar do you put in your cup of tea? He said, only 5. So I said to the nurses, are you not telling the patients that sugar in the tea is just as bad as biscuits? And, because sometimes you take it for granted that these things should be obvious, but they're not obvious.
Right.
But the story is very interesting because I then said to him, I'll buy you some sweeteners. Yeah. And they're very outrageously expensive in Samoa because you can only buy them at the chemist. Yeah. And it was about $48 for some outrageous amount like that for, I think, 100 or 150. I'm talking about Samoan tala.
Yes.
So anyway, I go and I said to my driver, I've committed myself. You need to take this back to that old man. Mm-hmm. So that's fine. And then the next morning at about 9 o'clock, the charge sister at the diabetic ward rings me up. Says, Misa, are you okay? I said, I'm fine, thank you. He said, well, you sent that sweetener. Every single diabetic in the ward now wants you to buy it. So I said to the sister, I said, my pay is not enough to buy sweeteners for everyone. But I said, what we've got to do is educate. We've got to go to the people and say, look, you've got 2 choices. If you can afford sweeteners, you buy it. And not, you're just going to take your tea without sugar. But you've got to at least let them know that if their glucose reading goes up, it matters that they've got 4 or 5 teaspoons of sugar in their tea. They're kind of used to this because our koko Samoa sometimes has a very strong taste.
Yes.
So they tend to need to put a lot of sugar in there to sweeten it.
Yeah.
And if you put in that amount and you're diabetic, you may as well, you're going to be in a bad way afterwards.
That's right. That's right.
What was the hospital name?
That's Tupua Tamasese.
Mea Ole.
Mea Ole, yeah.
I renamed I went to cabinet and I got them to agree to rename it.
Okay.
It was Apia General Hospital, it was Tautua Hospital, and I had it renamed as Tupua Tamasese Mea Ole Hospital.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize he is Tuiatua's father.
That's right.
And his mother was my auntie.
Yeah.
So as a young boy, I was very excited because we used to be able to call him Uncle Tam.
Yeah.
You know, the old man was Tamasese and, of course, Tama'ainga, but we were allowed to call him Uncle Tam. And so it was a great honor for me to. And I gave a speech, which I record, which was really a eulogy for him.
Yeah.
When I dedicated the hospital to him. So it's now Tupua Tamasese Mea Ole Hospital.
I just wanted to ask it because that's where I was born.
Oh, wow, really?
Oh,
Very
It was a
cool.
hospital.
Oh.
That is awesome. That is that.
was it already renamed?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not so.
Okay. Well,
So-
no.
I was just going to say that. Well, I guess that's a perfect segue for my next question. Who is Taisi Nelson in the Samoan history, and how is he related to your mother?
Well, he's my grandfather. So Taisi Nelsoni, who is the subject of the book Tautai by Dr. Paddy O'Brien,
Yes.
he had 5 daughters and 1 son.
Yeah.
And his bitterness towards New Zealand, because you remember this was one of the things that was covered in the apology.
Yes.
His 1 son was also Taisi, died in the 1918, and if you remember, one of the things that Helen Clark apologized for
Yes.
was allowing that ship in,
Yeah.
because it decimated our population.
Yes.
So he was very bitter because his one and only son, one of his favorite aunts, one of his sisters, they all perished in the 1918 influenza epidemic. I mean, it's very topical now with COVID.
Yes.
So he had 5 daughters. My mother was one of those daughters.
Yes.
The eldest was Noe, who married Tupua Tamasese Mea Ole.
Yes.
And I talk about theirs being one of the great love stories of their generation, and it was. He passed away when my auntie was very young and she wore black for the rest of her life. He passed away in 1963. So the Constitution said that they would rule together.
Yes.
Tupua Tamasese Mea Ole and Malietoa Tanamafili II.
That's right.
But if one of them passed away, the other would be alone for the rest of his life.
Until he died.
Until he died. And of course, you know, Malietoa lived to 94.
Yes.
So it was a very long, but
Very long.
very peaceful and
Yes.
a very, very wonderful reign.
Yes.
But he died very young,
Yeah.
and my auntie wore black for the rest of her life. Never really sort of, got over him
Yeah.
or, mourned him for most of her life.
Yes.
And that's why I talked about, this love story.
Yes.
But the second daughter was just Auckland University Law School just said that she was the first Pacifica female law graduate in 1936.
Wow.
She got her law degree in 1936. Olive Malina Fau Nelson.
Yes.
Now her granddaughter is Sir Michael Jones's wife.
That's right.
Malina. That's where she gets her name Malina Fau from.
Yes.
So her full name is Malina Fau.
Yeah.
She's named after her grandmother.
Yes.
So she married Fred Beetham.
Yeah.
So Leone Forsgren, who is her mother, was Leone Beetham.
Yes.
Then my mother. So my mother married Dick Carruthers,
Yes.
who they had 2 children. When my father came back from Somes Island, they were already split up.
Yes.
So he started courting my mother and had my brother and myself. The third was Annandale. She married Mr. Ted Annandale.
Yes.
It was my Auntie Sina, who was also my godmother. And the 5th married a Maya. She lived in New Zealand most of her life. Taufau.
Yeah.
Taufau Maya. And so those were the 5. And those 5 daughters of Taisi Nelson, you better not say anything about their father to those girls.
Yes.
They worshipped him. I think it's a measure of a man, especially father-daughter.
Yes.
It's a measure of a man how his daughters respond to him.
Yeah.
And he's got those wonderful, if you look at Tautua, he's got those wonderful pictures when he was being deported, where he's standing there in his suit with his daughters next to him.
Yeah.
And he was very, very close. He sent them to St. Cuthbert's.
Yeah.
He sent them to MLC Burwood, Methodist Ladies College, which apparently were two of the best schools in New Zealand and in Australia.
Yes.
So Taisi Nelson was a patriarch. He got dressed up in a tie for dinner every night, and they had a Chinese butler, and they served their food. Our mothers had to get into stockings.
Wow.
They had to get into stockings for dinner.
Wow.
But there was a reason. He had a chauffeur, he had a car. My grandfather wasn't trying to show off.
Yeah.
He just thought, well, if it's good enough for the New Zealand administrator, then it's good enough for a Samoan boy to also have a car with a chauffeur. And he did. And that's how he ran his life in Toefu.
Yeah.
He ran his life like he was some kind of a feudal lord, when deep down he was a Safune boy, born and raised in Safune. And I loved the Prime Minister's, because he was one of the speakers at the launch of Tautai.
Yes.
And Tulepa said, one of the reasons why he's so successessful and so great is that his roots are in Safune. Grew up in the village and didn't come to appear until he was about 8 or 9 years old.
Yes.
And that's where he got his, his thing. And I looked at him as if he's sort of looking at us as if to say, well, that's the problem with you guys. You didn't have this. You didn't have this wonderful grounding. But he fought so hard, and I'm so grateful to Paddy O'Brien, because I tell you what, Tautai is very hard reading.
Yes.
My book is a breeze compared to Tautai, and it's not for any reason except he was so badly treated.
Yes.
So the administrators, they were writing letters like this. They were saying to the guys in Samoa, you've got to undermine him. You've got to kill his business. You've got to cut his finances. The only way you're going to stop this man from agitating is to destroy him. Investigate his taxes, investigate this, investigate that. So when Paddy O'Brien started looking into all this, she found that there was a mountain of material, because people keep asking Paddy O'Brien, why did you choose Taisi to write a book about?
Right.
And she said, no, when I was researching out in the Turnbull Library, I just keep seeing stuff about this poor man Nelson that everybody was attacking, that everybody wanted to undermine, even his court cases. He had to do his court cases on his own, and he wasn't a lawyer. Yeah. But he went through all that. So finally, a Labour government,
of all governments,
forgave him and sent him back to Samoa. And fortunately, because he died not long after.
Yes.
But he was getting very, very ill. Yeah. The constant, sending away and all that were having its toll on him. So he died very young at 63. He was very young. I mean, for the age of these days, but he fought for independence. I mean, if you read Tautai, but even Tulip said when he was doing his review of the book, he said, I could only read 10 pages then go for a walk. Yeah. He said it was so heavy. Yeah. He said he couldn't read, he couldn't sort of sit down and read 30 pages. No, you can read this whole lot tonight. Yeah. No, but what I mean is it's not, there's heavy, the tsunami. I don't shirk. I talk about Lungalau Leva. Yes. I don't shirk the hard stuff. But, that's one thing you said you might want to.
Thank you for asking me that, because actually that's also something that's pretty heavy. Because I don't know if these guys are familiar or any of the audience is familiar about what happened to Lungalau Leva. And would you like to share about that?
Well, we were both ministers. I was Minister of Health. He was Minister of Works. But we were also usufono le conferenci le calcimetisi. We were also delegates to the Methodist Conference. And our Methodist Conference was on. And usually on the last Friday of the conference, because the conference concludes on the Sunday. Yes. We have what they call the Committee to Mau results. Yeah. And I that year topped it, and I think Leva came 7. Yeah. So I was sitting there and I got a tap on my shoulder, and he said, well done. But you listen to me, this is the last year you're going to beat me in this vote, going to Mau. So we had lot of fun, and then he said to me, "You must come to our HRBP function tonight,
Yes.
because I'm going to be the MC."
Yeah.
I said, "Are you sure? You okay?" He said, "Yes, yes, and I'm wearing pants. I'm going to wear pants tonight." I said, "Well, you're Kamu, right?" Because we always used to tease him that he had a European surname, Kamu,
Yes.
right? And then he said to me, you're teasing me again." So it was that kind of a spirit, you know, because he was a great guy. He was very easy to get along with.
Yeah.
And everybody loved him. So that night, he introduced the Prime Minister.
That's right.
And then he walked to the back. Now, we have these decorative tiles, you know, with the gaps in them. So this person must have lent, his gun. But there were also a lot of balloons.
Yeah.
So when the thing went off, it resonated throughout the whole hall. But we thought, well, is it a balloon? You know, what is it? Because, you know, these things don't happen in Samoa.
No, they don't.
So all of a sudden, we saw there was a rush. There was a rush. And then the next thing I knew, he was being carried out.
Yes.
So I got up right away because I'm Minister of Health.
Yeah.
And we had our daughter there from New Zealand, and she was about to leave at 1 a.m. That's why she was the only one there. So we took her, my daughter Erica. So she started panicking and screaming, you know, that could have been you, Dad. That could have been you. So we come out. I get in my car, and we follow the car up to a hospital. So I walk in, and Dr. Aisoliva is still trying to revive. And finally, maybe about 5 minutes later, he said, no, you know, he's passed away.
Yeah.
And then we realized what had happened. So we got back into the car. We went back, and my daughter just did not want to come to New Zealand.
No.
But I remember going to the airport and thinking to myself, this could be, you know, if it was a professional job, the person could be on this flight, flying back to New Zealand, and we would never really know or find him. But as it turned out, I mean, it turned out differently. But then the Methodists decided that we wanted our own memorial service on the Sunday.
Yes.
Before we officially closed the Konferenisi. So that was when Fatu Ese Auva, our president, asked me to give a eulogy.
Yeah.
So that eulogy is included. Parts of it are included.
So before you continue, I just wanted to just clarify that this is actually a major story that broke internationally. Because what basically had happened was a minister of the Samoan government was assassinated. He was assassinated by someone who shot him from far away, and you weren't too far away from him on that night, right?
In the front row, one of the front tables.
Wow. So, you know, this just reminds me of how much when I'm reading this book, it kind of like reminds me of the story of that movie, Forrest Gump. You know, because it's like you're always at like a place when something happens. You know, it just seems like the people that you meet. Like another example of someone that you happen to meet was the Pope. Is that right?
Yes, John Paul II.
John Paul II.
I went to Rome for an FAO meeting, and the FAO Director General, who's my very good friend, he said to me, Misa, would you like to meet His Holiness the Pope? And I said, you know, who wouldn't want to meet the Pope? But remember now, this is John Paul II.
Yes.
And I was amazed because when I was taken there, he didn't have much time to meet or talk to me, but he walked up to me, took my hand very warmly, and he said, blessings to you, your country of Samoa, and your ministry, and your people. And I was quite excited. I said, gee, he knows I'm from Samoa. He knows I'm Minister of Agriculture. And so I shook his hand, and I've got this wonderful photo in here of us. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm in the presence of a holy person. You know, it's just a feeling that you get with somebody like that. It's just the way he carried himself, the way he walked, and you know, he was the humble Pope who wanted a plain casket. You know, he didn't want anything fancy when he passed. If you remember, because there was John Paul I who didn't, and then this was John Paul II that I met.
Right. So I just want to end on a really interesting note, and remember, I just want to remind everyone that all of these stories are inside this book. So if you are listening and you're thinking to yourself, "Wow, I'd like to read more about that," there is so much more that you can find inside this book. I can barely, I mean, these are my notes right here, and I can barely actually bring up some of these things because there's so much in it. But I just wanted to say this one last thing, and I thought it was pretty interesting because it had to do with the Samoa team winning the sevens in the Hong Kong tournament.
Yeah.
Right? And you happened to be there.
Yes, I happened to be there. I was quite young. I had just been made Minister of Agriculture.
Yeah.
And I managed to swing by there. I had a very important commitment in Bangkok.
Yeah.
And part of being a government minister is the timing of these meetings.
Yes.
So I put the meeting straight after the weekend of the Hong Kong Sevens so I could go.
Yeah.
Not knowing that this would be the year that we won Hong Kong. And we've never won Hong Kong again.
Yeah.
But we had a team that was just incredible. We
Yes.
had those days that you could cross. So we had Lama Yeremia.
Yes.
We had
became an All
those
Black.
days. That was before you couldn't skip or go there.
Yeah.
So we had Alama Yeremia. We had Junior Tonu'u.
Oh,
We had all these guys,
awesome.
as well as our own. We had Brian Lima. We had
Yes.
Filippo Saena. We had Alifayo Vaisuai.
Yeah.
We had Lolani Koko.
Yes.
We had just a top team.
Coco, yeah.
Yeah. It was good.
And it was
All right.
unbelievable because the second half, we were leading in the first half.
Yes.
The first time in the second half of any Hong Kong Sevens final that there was no score.
Do you mind me asking who we were playing?
We were playing Fiji,
We were playing Fiji.
but we'd beaten the All Blacks,
Yes.
and we'd beaten Australia.
Wow.
So to me, that year we were the champions of the world
Yes.
because to get to Fiji,
Yes.
we had to beat Australia in the quarterfinals,
Yes.
the All Blacks in the semifinals,
Semifinals.
and then we played Fiji in the finals.
Wow.
No score in that second half.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there, so nervous. There was a bottle of wine, and I don't know how much of that wine I drank because I was just. But apparently, what was unbelievable is that the fence was about 6 feet high. The
Yes.
fence between where I was sitting, which was a front row thing,
Yeah.
and the field.
Yeah.
So according to the people that were with me, I cleared it.
And you don't know how.
I cleared it like a champion. I
High jump.
High jump. But here's the best part. So I go over to where the team is, and Marina tells this story real well. The late Marina, the great Marina.
Yes.
The first female to ever coach a winning team or any team in the Hong Kong Sevens.
Yeah.
So Marina said it was funny. So then the team said they want to do the victory lap.
Yes.
So before they knew what had happened, I grabbed the flag, and I was off. I was off. But the thing was, the poor team, they had to keep screaming out, "Misa, it's a victory lap! Slow down, slow down!" So I turned around like, no, because I was way ahead, and so I turned around a little bit, and they wanted to keep stopping and doing the so all of a sudden I was doing that too, and then we would run on a little bit, and it was just the most amazing thing. But what was amazing, most of my family and children didn't know I was even there.
Yeah.
And I was wearing a red top and a red. Thank goodness it wasn't the political times now. They'd probably say I was fast or something because I had a red outfit. I had a red T-shirt. I had red pants, and I was running in front. I was running in front of it, and all these people were looking at me. Said, "That's Misa. What is he doing there? He's in Hong Kong." And it was the most amazing thing. It was so euphoric.
Yes.
I have never been so proud of being a Samoan. I guess the important thing is that, to be at those places, like being ringside with David Tua,
Yes.
and I was proud of him.
Yes.
The fact of the matter is he was still standing at the end of that fight.
Amen.
And he was fighting one of the best boxers in the world who out, and I've got a picture in here that you just see the difference.
Yes.
Now from ringside, it looked worse
Yeah.
because it looked as though he was literally going like that.
Yeah.
No, truly, excuse me, because there was such a big height difference between him and Lewis.
there was.
And Lewis, he kept getting booed by the crowd because he was just running away.
Yeah.
He wouldn't go anywhere near David's
no
left
way.
hook.
Yeah.
No way.
But the thing is, he was still standing at the end of the fight,
That's
and I
right.
was just so very proud of him. And I told him that when we met recently. I told Famina, I said, no. I said, you have so much. I said, we were so very proud of you. And of course, we're very proud of Joseph Parker. Yes, we're very proud of him and what he's doing. And no doubt about it, Lauli will probably get back there. Back there and hopefully.
He's got a fight coming up, I believe.
He's got a fight coming up. Yeah. So we need to, when some Samoan, whatever the discipline, whatever the field, flies the flag.
Yes.
We're all part of it.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what I always say to these people. I said, when you run on the field, there's 200,000 Samoans running on with you.
That's right.
So that's usually how I encourage our teams. Said, you don't run on alone. 200,000 Samoans back in Samoa are running onto that field with you. And if you feel that, it's an amazing psychological, impact.
Yeah. Well, lau fionga misa, whaftai tele lava monini avanoa. I know that our time has come up where we usually will be doing the prayer. So would you mind leading us in prayer right now?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Le tua lo mātou tama, o e lava o tama o le lofa, ma le lofa muti vale, ma le lofa tūnoa. Moli atu le viinga I lau fio I nei afiafi mātou te moli atu fo I le whaftai tele, o no tele o whamanuianga o lingi mai mo I mātou. E le soa lau puleina fo I o mata upu e peo na mātou whaatala noaina, whaftai mo lau poto, ma lau mana o mwhai eo na tau nuu nei whamanoi. Whaftai fo I mo le sunga ia fuiava, a mese le komiti o mātou whaatasi nei, lato maua pēle manuia, a mese toi fua lau lei. O le mātou talo le ala tulo o le pēle, ma le mātou whaola Jesu Kiriso. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I thought of it praying Samoan.
Yes, that was awesome. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along and joining us. And if you want to, make sure that you get a copy of this because everything that you heard in the last 2 nights are all inside this book.
We'll also put a link on this particular, on our page as well, the link that you can find to be able to purchase this book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
and good
Thank you
night.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.